All right.
Wait for it. Wait for
Started
it.
yet? Started
There
yet?
it goes. Hey, and we're in. I haven't got feedback for you guys right now, have I? That's the problem. Sorry about that. I should have. I'd want to do the sort of do the thing so you guys can see what's going on. Problem is, the moment I do that, Google Hangouts. Google Hangouts.
I mean, you should consider switching to Discord for good. They did update their audio, which is much better quality now, and you can do like a stream to your guest, which is different than the stream that you're having like online. So we're seeing you live like in real time as well.
Yeah.
I know you just need to figure out the interface, but I don't like maybe.
I can do the
Because
interface bit, but the little icons are so tiny.
Yeah, I know. Like I was thinking because they do have an API, and I don't know what that API pulls. So maybe there is a way to do it into like one of those
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean,
Because I've seen like they have their overlay for games, and different games have different overlays and the way they display the icons. So I'm sure you can figure something out. Like those overlays are made by people who just took that API and just manipulated it into looking in whatever way they wanted. So look into it.
Yeah. Obviously, any of you guys been watching CC's latest video?
Oh yeah, I just watched it.
Yes,
Yeah,
Creations Cat just released a video, an expose on Nick
the
Fuentes.
cat boy thing.
Yeah, well, I think it really shows that he obviously Nick Fuentes is a completely degenerate, disgusting human being. I am, of course, talking about his mustache.
Yeah, it's very.
What the fuck? What the fuck was that? How could you have grown your hair for that long and kind of gone, oh, this is all right? What on earth?
I don't know, man. It's just like he just wants to be so trad, you know. Like it's all about that traditionalist.
Exactly, preaching for traditional family values, waiting for the right woman, whilst secretly fucking Australians without a tan.
Yeah.
Never trust an Australian without a tan. That ain't right, man.
Ooh.
That is some indoor shit. That guy's never left his house.
Yeah, but Australians are pretty tanned at the moment, aren't they? With everything going on.
No, that's not tanned. That's roasted.
Yeah, that's more.
much more sooty, really, isn't it?
Apparently, they've been like a month without rain, and then they had a month's worth of rain. This is like going to the pub with them. You know?
A lot of the fires are being started by.
No, they're not.
A lot of the fires are started by what's like a dry
The
thunderstorm.
patriarchy. They're being started by the patriarchy.
Which is just fucking insane. And then, yeah, again, the patriarchy.
Probably that. It's usually that.
And pyromaniac tabby cats.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the
I did
secret
like.
that Vadim could not reveal.
Yeah, I did like the conspiracy theory about the idea that wildfires that are basically engulfing an entire continent were started by about 180 odd people.
Yeah, when it comes to like the arsonists that they're talking about, like the number is so tiny, and also like the thing is like and
it's from months ago.
A lot of those fires. Yeah, a lot of those fires are started like in the middle of the city, like people burning trash or burning some trees on their backyard, and even the ones that got out of control, the fire department can just get to them because they're down the street. So, and a lot of those complaints are because yes, bushfires, uncontrolled bushfires, are against the law. So when people are burning stuff on their backyard, they get reported to the police, and that adds a number to those arsonists. Like it's another arsonist.
Well, there's also people trying to actually firewall their own homes. Because if you imagine, there's people looking at these wildfires and like kind of going, look, if I burn a bit of this brush away, I might save my neighborhood.
Dude,
but they're not supposed to do it.
It's not that. Like with fires this big, controlled burning is not effective at all.
Well,
you're talking about a fire. Hold on. You're talking about a fire that's 80 meters tall on average, not the tallest, on average is 80 meters tall, and it travels faster than like, I think it was like 40 kilometers per hour.
It's not so much that. It's there's nothing wrong with firewalling. That's not the problem. It's the fact that in order to actually do a firewall, I mean, we were talking about this with the firefighters in there. They have themselves a problem because they're supposed to firewall these sort of areas. Their problem is because it's so fucking dry. The moment they try and firewall it, they're going to actually cause a wildfire anyway. Or when it's not too dry, it's too fucking wet for them to even start a fire. It's either raining or it's basically a dust bowl.
Wow.
Yeah,
so
they
stuck.
were. I mean, I listened to a bunch of them. Like there was a not police department, like a fire department kind of chief that was doing a press conference, and he was like, "Yeah, for fires this big, firewalling is not effective at all. First of all, like for to create a gap that is big enough to prevent this fire from spreading, you're gonna have to start a bigger fire, or a fire that's big enough to spread and go out of control. So it's just not feasible.
So to stop the spread of a fire and prevent more global warming, we need to stop more fires.
No,
the fire just leaps across the gap. It's been a problem for a while. You can only make the fire breaks so big, and they can't make the fire break big enough.
I mean, I don't really recall every single detail he said, but he detailed a lot of points of why it's just not effective. If the fire was like a regular fire that they deal with every year, then yeah, firewalling might work. But for something this big, it just won't. Besides, like the main contributor to the spread of the fire is dry thunderstorms. Yeah,
which is ironically being caused by the trees combining with the hot air. So the trees are creating their own thunderstorms.
Yes, it's a thunderstorm created by just smoke and the moisture that's evaporating from burning trees. And it's so hot that I'm not a physicist, so I something with ions or something, those charging ions or something, and then just thunder happens. I don't know. Like I watched like a
there's a lot
meteorologist explain
there's a lot of dust
and
particulate matter. Okay, and if you imagine how clouds create sort of thunder and lightning and stuff like that, is actually from all of these water particles and dust particles, so basically rubbing up against each other like you'd rub your head up against a balloon. And
yeah,
of course that
much.
basically positively charges the cloud, and then the earth is negatively charged. So all it requires is some way to discharge down. Because there's loads of dust in the air, there's usually a way for it to basically stepping stone its way down to the ground. That's generally the gist.
You know how they say we're heading for an extinction level event in 12 years? I think we're seeing it, people. Well, we're at least close. We're having a preview of it.
Certainly Australasia has lost, nearly 1 billion animals. I mean, nobody's complaining about losing fuck tons of insects, mind, but you know what people are like. Who needs flowers? Who needs trees?
If we can't fuck it, who cares?
I wonder what those koalas.
I mean, you can fuck a tree, but you know.
I'm just thinking about all those poor koalas right now.
Delicious.
Oh my god! No, it's when you look at the maps and you start realizing like how big it is. It's kind of depressing.
just put it over the top of Europe, and you basically see most of say Italy completely on fire. An entire country's worth of fires right now going on.
Yeah, it is. It's freaking depressing.
Hello, Neo-Normie. Whoever you are.
Like, you've got those, and then you got fire tornadoes. I mean, it's not the first time I saw fire tornadoes. I saw them like the first time. Someone took like a very, very nice footage of them in California last year, and I was just like, this can't be real. And people are like, no, this is real. I'm like, no, this is from a movie. It can't be real.
Well, you know how they could have prevented all this problem in Australia? Raking the trees.
Too many leaves. He's right. We all should have listened to Mr. Trump.
If we'd raked the fucking trees.
And they could have brought their cancer numbers down by just not putting windmills up, of course.
Yeah.
Oh god, he didn't say that, did he?
Yeah.
Oh, he always had a right go.
The dude thinks windmills cause cancer, apparently.
How was this guy elected?
A very effective negative campaign.
Because leftists.
Oh, remember Andrew Neil? I think this was just recently. He was interviewing a Labour leader candidate, and he was actually asking why should people vote? What intelligence do you have to make people vote for you? Something along those lines. Can't remember the exact word now. But all I thought was intelligence. You know who we voted as prime minister?
The person who read out, I forget which Greek Odyssey he decided to read out and got it so fucking wrong. Greek people were laughing their cocks off at him. But apart from that, he did really well. Because let's be honest, he did it in Greek. Don't know about anybody here, but Greek ain't my first language. I hadn't a clue whether he was getting it right or wrong.
Yeah.
And that's what he was banking on.
Yeah, and Count Binface actually talked to him in Latin during the election results.
Who?
Yeah, I saw some people doing that. And these are the same people that are always railing against elitism. And they're sitting there kind of going, I bet you can't do that, Jeremy Corbyn. It's like, okay.
No. So what?
What? Yeah. What? Actually read the Iliad wrong. Anyone can do that. Maybe that's what they mean by anti-elitism. It's like pretending to be elitism, but not. You know? Was it Robin just considered in 4 months Australia go what?
It's Poffit.
What's he saying?
Goes to winter and we'll be getting the taste of what?
Goes into winter and we'll be getting the taste of 120 degrees of heat. Okay,
in other words,
Poffit.
When they go winter, we'll go summer.
Yeah, Poffit. This is why you are not a climatologist. Okay.
And your punctuation's appalling.
Don't even start with that. You're lucky that you've got a coherent sentence, really.
I mean, it did start raining, I think yesterday, or maybe the day before in Australia, and it's starting to put out some fires. The problem was that it was so hot that even when there are some rain clouds out there, the water would evaporate before it hits the ground because it was just so hot.
Yeah.
But now the rain clouds got so big that they are putting some fires down. So yeah, I hope that in the next, I would say, couple of weeks, maybe they'll have most of them under control.
The funny thing is that
crossed.
If you have a look at the map on where these wildfires are glowing away, have you noticed that they're actually around near the coast?
Yeah.
And everyone's sitting there kind of going, but they're surrounded by water. Surely... And I have to say, this is the reason that they've got the wildfires, because that's where the trees grow. If you go down into the centre there, the only thing that's left is basically dust and a road going between cities.
That's Australia. Australia has a huge desert, so yes, there's no fire in the desert, of course.
And that's what's That's what's encroaching on them. They're going to be like Egypt by the end of the fucking decade. You know?
You like this, Robin?
Will I? Will I, Sean?
Possibly not. It's nothing to do with the subject. It's just something that flashed up.
The entire existence of the British nation rests on Britain First's shoulders.
Yeah.
Is it? Oh, it's that guy who is like a completely he's basically a Nazi and decided to get all his boys to join the Conservative Party.
Great.
Yeah. Paul Twat. He used to hang out with Jada Fanson, but she had enough of him, and she was pretty mental and all. Anyway, didn't it, Habib?
Yeah.
Habib, didn't it snow near you?
It snowed down south. South is the border with Oman, and that's a very mountainous area, so yeah, it snows every now and then. But we were hit with a very big snowstorm, and after that, there was like a lot of wind coming from that area for like 3 days, and it got so cold. Like the temperature wasn't that cold. Like it was like 10 degrees Celsius, so it's not the coldest. But it's the wind chill.
Turn your AC off.
Can I ask you a question, Habib? How sick and tired are you of hearing people consider the Middle East basically a desert?
I mean, it's a cliche, but again,
yeah, until right now, I assumed that was the case.
I mean, yeah, the thing is, like, whenever, like, when I first started, like, meeting different people from Netherlands, I just expected, like, oh, it's Europe, must be mountains, and then I learned that wait, Netherlands has no mountains at all. It's flat as a frying pan.
It's actually lower than the some parts of it are actually lower than the fucking sea level.
So yeah, I can't be angry at people for just like going with cliches and stereotypes, because yes, I am guilty of that as well.
But we've had Google Maps for so long.
I know, but still, like, there's few things that you just don't. I mean, it's just like you have your blind spot where there's some things that you just don't know about.
But it's like it's the Mesopotamia. It's like the cradle of civilization. Well, how would have all these people worked out? They're all just living in a fucking desert. You know, it's just.
Also, Mesopotamia was between two rivers, and then those rivers are still there.
I wonder what those rivers provide.
The Ganges and the Euphrates?
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, equally on the topic of climate change again, I've wanted to say this for a while. People keep saying how Greta Thunberg, supposedly she's mentally ill because she has Asperger's syndrome, and to that I say, fuck you, and pale yourself on a flagpole arse first.
Well,
it's not a mental wellness, though, is it?
No, but it's not a mental illness.
Is it not?
No, it's a learning disability, Robin.
Okay.
Well,
yeah, there's a difference. Like you don't get cured from Asperger's.
Yeah.
There are very few mental illnesses you do get a cure from.
Yeah, but yeah,
it's not something you contract.
It's not an illness.
Who
like
contracts mental illnesses?
All right,
no.
All right, not something you develop, essentially. Then whatever.
Yeah, it's something that
unless you've had the MMR back.
I have met a lot of people who have contracted autism, I think.
Oh, that's people who got into anime. and that's different.
Often confused.
I thought you meant the people who'd had the MMR vaccine. No, sorry.
Either way, people keep saying Greta Thunberg's mentally ill. I get pissed off because, well, frankly, still, even though they don't need to, there are lots of people with autism who get sectioned and put in mental care facilities when they don't really need to and end up getting worse than they are. So you might wonder why I'm a bit pissed off when someone says that.
As somebody who used to work specifically in the autistic field.
Yeah, I know.
With the autistic spectrum. I mean, care in the community was, the kickbed system was a great idea. And, most of the people that I've worked, I mean, don't get me wrong, I have worked with some who were seriously violent. I mean, I've finished work and I've had cracked ribs, bruised this, that, and the other, busted nose, because it's how they're frustrated, because they can't control it, their frustration of not being able to communicate the way the rest of the world communicates. And I always saw my job as, I think, interpreter's not the right word, but it gives you you're like the stepping stone between the client, resident, patient, whatever you want to call them, and so-called normal society.
Either way, people go on keep trying to make big conspiracy theories about Greta Thunberg, and even my own.
Well, they're only look. You're misinterpreting what they're trying to do, which is undermine and strawman the person. If you will.
I know that's what they're trying to do. But it still pisses me off because.
And I mean, what you should really be concentrating on, and I mean, a lot of people kind of, she's just a kid. No. If she wants to put herself in the open, yeah, she's going to come under that sort of thing. What you should be looking at these people and kind of going, are you this pathetic? That even a girl who isn't even saying "don't listen to me," you are having a go at. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Yeah, she said that.
Yeah, she's saying listen to the scientists.
Her message is listen to the scientists. That's the funniest bit of it. Well, it's also the saddest bit of it all.
Yeah.
I mean, Attenborough has been going on about it for years. Climate scientists have been going on about it for decades. But,
yeah, I mean, this is the first.
This is the sad bit for me. It took a 15-year-old child at the time. It took a child, somebody to go, oh, and suddenly it was all big news because a child had said it.
Well, no, this has been said before, though. This has all been said before. And as far as it being big news, I mean, people are always talking about it. It's just that people kind of go, well, we don't want to talk to experts. We don't believe science is. It's just whatever it is. I'm convinced that it's not true, and I must convince everybody else too, for some reason.
Yeah, but even my own mother. I mean, at Christmas she was going on about how she doesn't know what she's talking about, but she's clearly interested in science. She should devote herself to science. So that. And I think, where's your degree? But equally, she even says, and Greta Thunberg, she obviously has this whole machine behind her. I think, so a person with Asperger's syndrome can't possibly be dedicated to something on their own. Jesus Christ, you should know more than that.
Let's not kid ourselves, mate. She does have a machine behind her, but I must sort of, I would contend with your mother and say, so you don't think somebody with a machine behind them should be listened to? Is that what you're saying, Mum? She'd be like, well, no. What, you mean they've got some sort of ulterior motive? Well, let me talk to you about climate change denial then. Because, oh my fucking God, they've got machines for machines to do machine work as far as this sort of thing is concerned. Mum, do you think cigarettes don't cause cancer? These guys did. Now they don't think climate change is real. Coincidence? These are guns for hire, Mum.
It's difficult because I don't know the lady.
Yeah.
So it's hard to personalise her. I'm on about Greta Thunberg now.
Oh, sorry, not my Daily Mail reading.
Oh dear.
It's just some kid. It's just some fucking kid.
The thing is,
plenty of other kids saying this stuff as well.
Certain forms of, Asperger's people I have found can be quite obsessive.
Yes, I'm sure she is. She's very obsessed right now.
She is, and let's be fair, there are worse things to be obsessed about than caring about the planet.
Well,
but it also, because she has that, possibly. Like I said, it's hard to, I'm having to half guess, but if that's what she is, her, she has an obsession about climate change. What's wrong with that?
Yeah. And even going with my mum, she's saying that Greta Thunberg's a hypocrite because there was something where, because Greta's going around in a small boat or whatever, and something went wrong with it, and they had to get a jet plane or whatever to cast it back to shore or whatever. And my mum said she was a hypocrite because of that. And all I was thinking was, it was an emergency. Well, I haven't heard about this, but it was obviously an emergency. You kind of need to take some liberties with that.
Well, part of the thing is, what they say is, if you believe in climate change, then you should immediately ditch your car, get rid of fossil fuels. I don't know how you're supposed to light your house and electricity and things like that, because this causes global warming, so if you use any of those, you're a hypocrite. She's absolutely
the thing is, like, with a lot of the planning that's, the green parties all around the world are coming up with, no one is saying, not even the UN, no one's saying just cut off every single use of fossil fuels. So it was about reduction.
Although I did say in the comments some videos back, because I wasn't on here, how there was a woman representing Extinction Rebellion on the Andrew Neil show, and he was making the point of, I can't remember the exact point, it was something about how do you expect people to get rid of all this technology, to no longer be dependent on all this stuff that they're currently using, and her response was, which it was a long response, but I didn't listen to all of it because she opened with, "We put a man on the moon." I was like, "Oh, Jesus Christ, that's the line of someone who doesn't know what they're talking about." I think what she was making was Jacob Rees-Mogg's actual comment about the Irish border, which is, technology is developing all the time. And I'm like, if you're not a scientist or an engineer, you really don't have any right to start talking.
I think she was kind of pointing out that there are impossible feats that can be actually possible if somebody puts their mind behind it. And if a country were to put its mind behind something,
that was the attitude all around Europe and in the America as well. A lot of the Western countries after World War II had this, can-do attitude, including in Russia too. Like the USSR had this attitude of like, we can conquer whatever we want. Yes, the Western nations went about it a certain way, and USSR went another way. But again, the attitude was there. They were facing like some insane projects at the time. They had to rebuild an entire continent, and they didn't care. They just went ahead and did it.
Well,
America just like restructured their entire infrastructure. They started new fields of study, and yes, the space program was one of them.
Yeah, but that was really down to existential threat from ideology, though. That seems to be the only motivating force that I can see in America these days. If let's say, I don't know, the leftists don't like it, they'll love it. If the big mistake that the left made was believing climate science. What they should have done is deny global warming. That's what the left should have done. If they'd have denied global warming right now, everyone literally the Republicans would have insisted that everyone's roof tile be a solar panel at this point, just to piss them off.
By the way, I'm liking Seb's comment. Being obsessive over the human species surviving is not a mentally ill obsession. It's sanity.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I was reading it and then somebody else jumped in. He that should not be named.
So Bernie's coming up in the polls. This is worrying.
Oh dear.
Yeah, but that's because he upset Miss Warren.
No, I think it's more along the lines. I say it's worrying in the sense that I don't think some people will ever forgive some of the Bernie bros not voting for Hillary. You see. So So what they want to do is make sure that Trump goes in there just to teach them a lesson, because that's the important thing.
It's. I did find that a very strange way of running your election. There again, I mean,
it's, to be honest with you, mate, it's Democrat. Everyone kind of go, oh, this is terrible, but this is what the Democrats are always doing. They've got this piracy policing business going on all the time, and then one of them wins, and then the rest of them kind of go, don't like them. They were mean to me. They were rude.
And it never happened to Jeremy Corbyn.
And this is that's more along the lines of the Blairites never managing to actually leave the Labour Party. Yeah, but we won, and it's like, mate, honestly, you could have put fucking Ed the Duck up there. You could have put a fucking any puppet you like, and they would have voted for him. They wanted the Conservatives out so fucking badly, and lo and behold, just out of nowhere, there's this guy who Rupert Murdoch really likes, who literally, who even fucking Margaret Thatcher, who everybody hated, was looking at Tony Blair kind of going, he's my legacy, and they voted for him.
And let's be fair, when you listen to, he was a very gifted orator. You might not have agreed with what he said, but after he'd said it, you'd be like,
he's a politician. They're all gifted orators.
No, excuse me. Have you listened to Ian Duncan Smith?
I've heard him speak. I don't think I could listen to him.
No, this is. I mean, Ian Duncan Smith was one of the people who opposed. Was one of the Tory leaders when Blair was in power, and he just made Duncan Smith look like a fool.
And here we got the lefties
here.
We got the lefty curse kicking in from the neo-normie here with Warren is a snake. And it's like, guys, you do realise that the people that backed Warren, those people, and if Bernie wins, you're going to have to turn around and say, do you want to join the team with my guy at some point? You do realise that, don't you? You could be absolute arseholes to each other during the primaries, and then when the primaries are over, you're just going to unite.
You have to. We'll put
that's going to work out really well for you, isn't it?
You'll have Trump again, and Trump's on about he's on about changing the Constitution.
God.
I mean, this man is just a dictator in everything but name.
I should actually point out while the polling data will say one thing or another, the betting data is usually very accurate, and it is saying Trump's going to win.
Because the left are always in this way. And to be honest with you, I think a lot of this isn't necessarily the left's fault.
Is it not?
Well, the right have a tendency to go fifth column. So you will meet a lot of people on the right who are like, I'm a lefty. I voted Remain. But now I think that the EU are really bullies. And it's like, oh, mate. Oh, you didn't even try. You know,
oh yeah, I remember that during Gamergate.
Lots of fifth columnists kicking in. The right do this a lot. They just love to stir the pot within these sort of circles. You know, as far as this business with like Bernie and Warren going on, this sounds like it sounds like Warren has, I would say, maybe purposefully misinterpreted what he was saying. I think he's probably said something along the lines of America maybe, or at least Trump being quite. I suppose it's along those sort of lines of that. And I think that the real problem that people are doing at the moment is what they're doing is they're trying to actually get Trump supporters to vote for them.
Oh, dear.
You know?
Not gonna happen.
Yeah, it's like I don't mean to agree with Hillary, but they're deplorables. They're never going to vote for those people. They never were going to vote for them. They never did.
Yeah, Bill Maher actually said there's a reason Hillary referred to Trump voters as a basket of deplorables, because they are deplorable.
Yeah, they're twats. They like to be twats. If you see this with a lot of the Brexiters out there, how many of them are celebrating the idea that people are getting upset with this?
Yeah.
So I ask, what is right with you? If that's your political aim, is to basically like fuck up your own country just to annoy half of it. And then to sit there and kind of go, I don't like foreigners telling me what to do. I prefer my own countrymen. It's like, are you sure you prefer your own countrymen? Because you just basically want to like just rub shit in the noses of 50% of them. I'm not sure you do.
Yeah, had it gone the other way, I think we would have just calmly got on with our lives.
If it had gone the other way, of course, the Brexiters would have just shut up shop. Farage would have retired at this point, kind of going, I've quit. I've done it. I've tried my best, and it's obviously not going to happen. Honestly. Was it Neon Normie? I had an argument with Undoomed earlier over Trump Space Force having camouflage unit, which is hilarious, as Space Force is a white elephant. Well, it's not so much a white elephant, but it's actually nothing more than a renaming of the U.S. Air Force Space Command. That's all. If anyone knows, they're not like making up a whole new division here. It's actually the U.S. Air Force Space Command just being renamed. If anybody didn't, is this a surprise to everyone suddenly? I was hoping everybody could go, oh yeah, of course. And it's like, I'm greeted with silence at this point.
Oh yeah, of course.
There we go, my knowledgeable guests.
What was the question again?
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. I'm going to go for a cigarette. You talk about fucking, I don't know, give a shit.
Did you see Doctor Who the other week?
Back on eco stuff, there's actually a vegan cafe where I walk at the moment, and there's a chalk sign outside saying, "Welcome, everyone, welcome." Now, I was annoyed by those because I keep thinking, what exactly implied that anyone was unwelcome? But equally, when I see some of that, and knowing it's a vegan cafe, I kind of want to go in and say, have any sausage rolls? Scotch eggs?
Well, I don't understand fun.
You're not welcome to everyone, are you?
This doesn't affect Habib and the other well, it is just Habib, actually. Greg's, the bakery.
Oh, yeah.
They made so much profit last year through their vegan sausage rolls, vegan steak bakes, vegan this, that, and the other, that their chief exec decided to give all the workers basically a handout. It turned out as, here's 300 quid, thank you very much.
Decent.
Excellent. We can all agree that a boss doing that to his... I mean, these are the people on the shop floor he's done it to. Yeah, the most poorly paid. And I think we can all claim that's a fairly decent act.
There is...
no, it isn't. And do you want to know why?
Why?
According to the certain right-wing newspapers, these people were claiming... are getting universal credit. And it's going to affect their universal credit. So they're only going to get 60 quid. And that's disgraceful. And they blamed that. They managed to blame that on the guy who, I mean, he could have kept the money. He could have sat there, put it in his pocket. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
There is actually a businessman in America. I saw this when I was still watching The Daily Show when Trevor Noah hosted. It was literally pretty much just after Trevor Noah hosted. And I think he runs a big business. He definitely has some really nice silk-type clothes, but he had really long hair, beard, and came out barefoot. And he talked about this thing, how he gave himself a major pay cut and redistributed it to all the workforce, or rather the lower ends of the workforce. And this came out of the fact that one of his employees came to him and started saying how she couldn't afford the rent, she basically couldn't afford to live. And that's when he took a look at the minimum wage and realized how much it just doesn't afford you a genuine basic way to live. So he did crunch the numbers, he calculated how much a person actually needs to live, and gave himself a pay cut enough to sustain his lifestyle, but nonetheless enough to actually pay his workers properly. And I thought, wow, what a guy.
Well, that was the original Ben and Jerry. They did things like that, didn't they?
I don't know.
But I mean, not that Piers Morgan likes to jump on a gravy train or anything. Vegan gravy, obviously. After the guy from Greggs had made this offer, or done this for his workforce, Piers Morgan claimed credit for it.
Oh, Jesus.
Because if he hadn't kicked up a stink about these companies, I mean, this is... I find rather hypocritical. I mean, these are companies that are right. There's a gap in the market for vegan food. I know. And this is important fact. In addition to making our steak, baked sausage rolls, cheese, and whatever flan, we're going to make vegan-y stuff. I wonder where the profit come from. Oh, I can now appeal to another group of buyers.
Actually, I'm looking forward for that Impossible beef that Burger King is selling to come to Dubai, because I do want to test it out.
Yeah, I want to give that a go. It might be all right.
Oh, Burger King doing it, because I've been thinking I don't particularly want to go vegan per se because I like my milk, but I am cautious about my weight, and I keep thinking if there are some proper products that still taste like meat, then may as well.
It's not about health or watching weight for me. I just like to test out different foods.
Yeah, I knew that was exactly what you were going to say.
It's like, yeah, it's fascinating to me. Like, people are literally saying that, yeah, it tastes just like beef, and there are some accounts of people going like, yeah, it's even better than beef, and I'm like, wait, even though Burger King is not the best, but their burgers are passable as far as junk food is concerned.
I prefer them to McDonald's, but that's not saying.
By the way, Robin,
can't stand McDonald's.
We were talking about food, Sean.
Oh, sorry, I did apologize.
But actually, Robin, the whole reason this
McDonald's, eat the carton.
Sean, try not to interrupt.
Yeah, the whole reason this came about, Robin, was because I was talking about how there's a vegan cafe open up on my way to work, and it has a sign in chalk that says "Everyone welcome." And first thing, I get annoyed by that because I keep thinking, what made you imply that? What did you do to imply that anyone wasn't welcome? But equally, when I see that, I'm kind of tempted to go in and say, "Do you have any sausage rolls, Scotch eggs, milk, chocolate? You're not welcome to everyone, are you?"
Yes, I feel as if I'm hard done by here. I feel as if I've been sidelined. Yeah, and they kind of go, well, you can always go next door.
Yeah.
So, but, you're all welcome. You can come in and order the food that's available. I mean, it's like walking into, like, I don't know, fucking Pré à Manger and, asking them for, like, a quarter pounder with cheese. They're going to be looking at you kind of funny. It's not on the menu, mate. It's how it works in these sort of places. You order what's on the list. It's like voting. You don't get to pick what's on the fucking menu. You only get to pick from the menu. But yeah. I personally think that obviously they probably had that sign up because maybe Piers Morgan lives nearby.
No, he doesn't.
Who was caught shopping for vegan food the other day.
Was he now?
Yeah.
Well, maybe he's doing some market research.
Yeah, it's
trying the stuff before he whinges about it.
It's interesting when It's interesting because when Greg's unveiled the vegan sausage roll and he whinged about it on Twitter, Greg's actually replied, Piers, we were expecting you.
Yeah. It was, I mean, Greg's have been, I think they've been quite ethical. They're a decent company. They pay their taxes. They're not Amazon. You know.
Wow, we're looking at Habib's poll here. Tim Pool was doing very well, but looks like Paul Joseph Watson is just running away with this one.
Makes you proud to be British, doesn't it? Not only have we got the biggest cunt in the world in Boris, Farage, Brexit, now we're taking over Habib's poll.
Yeah, Paul Joseph Watson is winning with the dumbest fandom, so congratulations to his fans. But we still have like 20-something hours. You never know.
Like I said, mate, there's really a Rizzler's difference between all of them at this point in rhetoric and fan base.
Yeah, I think their fan base does it. They
you
share a lot of their fan base, but you just look at their subscription numbers and you know that,
yeah. To be honest with you, mate, if you'd have put Dankula in there, well, game over.
Doggy sit.
Like the UKIP people. No, people have been going like, how come you don't have Ian Moss Chung? And I'm like, yeah, I don't pick on people that are that dumb. Like, I feel sorry for them.
You have some standards. They might be low, but they're not that low.
Can you imagine the anti-SJW types have now become as bad, if not worse, than the SJWs?
Oh, they've been at it for
irony.
A couple of years.
Yeah.
For a couple of years at least.
And without irony. And when you say to them, dude, you're just as bad as them at this point, if not worse, they're like, well, they made us this way.
No,
that's
a
Carl argument anyway, isn't it?
Here's the thing. Like, I run around in circles where, I interact with social justice warriors all the time, and the people who used to mock and make fun of. But from what I've seen, personally, like, a lot of them that had like silly criticism of like pop culture and media, and we're like, that's just silly, just let people live and do whatever. They turned around and like kind of like changed their critique into something that's more sensible, and I can just like interact with and have a back and forth. However, on the other side, they just like when Mortal Kombat decided on Mortal Kombat 11, we'll just have the option for more practical outfits, and you can unlock all the sexy outfits in the crypt, which takes you about 2 hours of gameplay. People freaked out. They're like, "Oh no, you're taking my titties away!" So, I don't know.
Well, like, it is a bit petty in a if you imagine, it does make me laugh when people are getting upset about the idea of titties in a game where you're literally ripping out somebody's spine.
No, it's not.
The reverse. I'm sitting there kind of going, well, it's sort of part of the parcel, isn't it? It was basically sort of. I mean, beforehand it was much more brutal.
It was not part of like. Hold on. What they did with MK11 is they went back to the original designs of the first 3 games. They didn't go with the ultra-sexualized of Mortal Kombat 7, 8, and 9. They went with the original designs. And that's
and
fine.
you're saying not ultra sexualized?
Yeah, the ultra sexualized one was like
the original had some pretty sexy outfits, mate.
No, the later sequels were like the girl the girls didn't even have like any sort of like they were wearing pasties pretty much with straps. Let's face it, and it was silly. And people like the silly, so why not? But it's like, it's still there. It's not like they took it away. Like, for example, Jade in MK11, you don't even have to unlock that outfit. It's unlocked on the get-go. Her default is her original outfit from MK2.
So that's the green leotard bottom and the sort of crop top kind of thing. And then everything else is just flesh.
Yeah, and pretty much, you know what? I didn't really mind it. The only thing that I didn't like about the game...
Yeah, but she was the only female character there.
What, in K2?
No, in Mortal Kombat original.
No, they had Sonya Blade.
I thought we were talking about Sonya Blade.
No, I was talking about Jade. Jade is an unlockable character.
Jade wasn't in original.
Oh, I was talking about 2. She was unlockable in 2.
Now. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I was talking about 2. Like I said, originals probably.
Oh right, okay, we're getting confused here.
No, originals. I refer to the 2D ones as originals because those were like the original. Those are the ones that I grew up with.
The one thing that sort of like grounded me, and maybe I'm weird on this one, but I would have liked it if they'd have actually stuck to the original format of using actual live characters. I would have preferred that.
Yeah, it's the technology is very limited when it comes to trying to animate and sort of like tweak different movesets, and it's very, very time consuming.
Oh, I know.
I get why they didn't do it, and I get why 3D is much easier to work with, especially with different lighting sort of effects in different arenas. What I hated is that they went with a more, let's say, mainstream sort of fighting. I wouldn't say mainstream, like a fighting game that was more inspired by its peers. What made Mortal Kombat special is that every single character moved the same way, except for 4 special moves. So you could pretty much pick any character you want. If you stick to the basic moves, they're going to move just the same way. And that kind of standardization of characters that lasted for the first 3 games was amazing for me. But yeah, they decided to get away from that, I guess.
Well, is it getting away from it, or is it expanding the game?
No, they pretty much changed the formula. They changed it. Like it's there's no standardization anymore except for the uppercuts, and even with the uppercuts with MK9, like different uppercuts of different characters would throw you different distances, because they had to account for how the juggling mechanics work.
I must warn you, I'm pretty tired today. I got up quite early in the morning, so it's probably not going to be like going on to the silly hours of the morning. So don't get tucked into too much.
I've got an article for you that might.
Have you been spending all day watching the cricket again?
No. My sleep pattern's been all up the duff, and then I managed to kind of reset it, but I woke up at like 6 this morning, something like that.
So
I just want to say that I really like the new Mortal Kombat games. I can talk a lot about them, so if we decide to, I mean, it's no Doctor Who or anything, but if we decide to go along that tangent,
it's a topic.
I can help you out.
It's a topic that I can
feeling
stomach.
Tired.
No, I would be interested in actually your
right.
take on this one.
Yeah.
Well, obviously you have to play it via sound more than anything else, isn't it?
Yes, correct.
So how does that work out for you exactly?
I mean, pretty well. I mean, the fighting games are actually the games I can play the best, particularly the 2D ones, because all you have to worry about is you and your opponent, and you can hear where you are relative to your opponent on screen by listening to it. You don't have to actually look at it, so you can tell, how far or how close someone's getting, whether or not, you should use a certain type of ranged attack, or if you should use a projectile or something. If they're getting in close, use something faster or whatever to open them up, and so on. And NetherRealm actually in particular is helpful, because they have a whole, if you go particularly, like MK10 had a couple of accessibility features, which is MK11 has a whole page full of them, and including they actually have the option of reading the menus. There's actually a lot of, and this could get a bit tangenty, but there's a lot of movement going on right now in gaming, mainstream gaming in general, to make the menus read if you are a person without sight. Because there is a new law, well, not a new law, it's actually a rather old law called the Communications Video Accessibility Act. It was signed under the Obama administration. Basically, the games industry, the Entertainment Software Association got a bunch of waivers for years so that they didn't have to comply with it, because essentially they weren't ready to comply with it, and they get their pantsuit off if it applied to them. And those waivers are now worn out, expired, as they've built some of the platforms, like for Xbox, for example, has a screen reader on it. PlayStation 4 has a rudimentary thing on it so that you can access the features like the, being able to chat or not like the marketplace and the DVD stuff, but the games have always, been sort of a black box. So now like the next stage is they're adding in communications. In order to make the communications features accessible, they have to make the chats readable. So if you're like in, like a Halo or something like that, you're in your group chat, that needs to be readable by a screen reader or something like that, which means that they need to build the ability for it to be read by a screen reader in the product.
Well, I always
which
thought...
is a pretty heavy lift, and once they do that, then they can do other things. But now I've seen that they're actually adding the menus. So like Halo, the Halo collection, actually, if you use a screen reader, you can read the menus. You can't play the rest of the game without someone else, but you can read the menus, which is interesting. But Mortal Kombat went a different route, which was to self-voice the menu, and they had a guy actually read every option, which is nice and appreciated.
I was just thinking about like, for example, like imagine open world gaming.
Yeah.
And having a standard of sounds that are dedicated to, say, a tree. Or obviously you do have sound effects that come with these sort of things, but specifically for people to be able to see longer distances, if you see what I mean, or to at least hear longer distances, so they can plan a route.
Right.
That sort of thing. So
I definitely find,
I mean, like having identifying sounds for enemy and or friend, that sort of thing. I mean, we have like greens and reds, colours and things like that to identify people with. But having that in a sound format,
Yeah.
And if you could standardize that across games, that would make a lot of sense for people, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's people are starting to get onto the idea more of just, you're not necessarily designing for 2% of your player base. You're trying to include more people in the thought process of who's actually playing your games, which I think is helpful. And I do definitely find, like, the games I want to play most are games where you are like the character walking around in a world, be it a first-person shooter, a third-person shooter, an RPG, open world, mechanic, whatever you want to call it. And those are all really hard because of not the shooty parts. The parts that are supposed to be difficult would actually I'd probably be fairly easy to like aim and stuff, but just walking around, figuring out where to go next, just following the path is really, really obnoxious and just ruins everything. So
yeah, it's part of that debate that the entire industry was having. I think last year when Sekiro came out, and there were a few articles going like, "How come it doesn't have an easy mode?" And people freaked out. They were like, "Well, what about like vision, like the developer's vision or the maker's vision?" And you give them some examples of some games that cater to audiences and made their games easy. Celeste, Game of the Year 2018. Oh, 2017, sorry. No, actually, 2018. Yeah. Oh. The developer made that game as a hard platformer, kind of like Meat Boy kind of platformer, but yeah, people found it pretty hard, and they were like, just have difficulties. He was against it, and then as soon as he made some easy mode, his sales quadrupled because people were enjoying the game. People started actually streaming the game.
I thought you were going to say his fan base went against him.
No, his sales went insane because people were like, like ultra hard sort of like platformers is a very, very niche kind of genre. You make it a little bit easier, more accessible, and then people started buying it on their Switch, on their little consoles, and it just started spreading.
Yeah,
Resident Evil is the new like Resident Evil 2 remake is sort of a great example of this, where like I love it. I can walk around, I can aim at zombies, I can shoot them, I can knock them down, I can go walk to them, and I can like hit the button where I'm trying to like loot the corpse and get all that stuff. And then the guy gets up and he's chasing me and I'm running through the thing and I'm having a great time. but then I hit a wall, and I don't know if I'm supposed to go left, right, or whatever. They catch up to me. I get into a corner, and I get eaten to death. And now I'm having what is a frustrating time, not in the way that the game intended me to have it. And were I to like use a cheat code or something to put invulnerability on, that's sort of me making sort of a deal, so to speak, like, okay, if I don't put this on, I'm going to die. I won't be able to continue the game forward. So I'm sort of sacrificing a bit of my enjoyment of being able to complete it in order to just
here's the
get
thing.
on with it.
Here's the thing. Okay, imagine you know when you put your ear quite close to a wall, and you hear the sort of like the white noise from the surroundings start to phase. Was that too technical to say?
No, I
know what that means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now imagine that scenario with, say, Doom. So when you're closer to a wall, it begins to phase. And when you're further away from a wall, it would unphase.
I think there are a few games that kind of implemented something like that. If I'm not mistaken, Kingdom Come Deliverance has a very, very good soundscape to it, and they implement something similar to it.
I'll have to look at that.
Yeah, I think that would be what I'm talking about is not doing it so it's actually exact, but to have it on a much more perverted version. So you would be looking at the wall and you can hear it phasing in front of you, like 10 meters, 20 meters away.
So it's like a way to boost it to help, more accessibility kind of option.
Yeah, well, if you imagine when you're like 10 meters away from a wall, you're going to recognize that you're 10 meters away from that wall by its phase. And once you've obviously got used to the idea of how where these walls phase in and out for you, you're going to be able to sort of at least sort of map out the room that you're in. I mean, blind people already do this. I know of somebody who actually uses ticks, so they sort of like, and they make this little noise to themselves. And it's sort of like a version of echolocation.
Speaking of that, Prophet's actually asking a genuine question there for you, Drew, actually. Are there VR games for the blind that are based around echolocation type things?
I mean, they wouldn't need the VR unit, because they're blind.
Just headphones, you're done.
Yeah, just the tracking.
Yeah, it's literally the cheapest VR unit in the world for deaf people, isn't it, really?
I think the closest game that focused more on audio than visuals that I know of, and I would love to see Drew play it and see what he thinks, would be Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice.
Yeah, I'm trying to steal that, and I haven't had any success.
They spent more time in that game doing the audio than the actual visuals. They spent a lot of money and effort on it. So
Drew,
Drew. Yes.
Drew, I have a genuine question. I'm not joking about it. I saw something on Google. And this sounds like one of those things like, oh, you're having fun. But no, I genuinely mean this. There was a question in Google questions or whatever, do blind people dream? And I'm genuinely curious, because do you have some sort of audio dreams, or do you dream visually?
I dream the same way that I experience sight in dreams the same way I experience it in the real world. I imagine if someone who lost their vision later in life would probably have dreams, possibly with restored vision, but I'm not sure.
But that is one of those things.
I don't dream a lot myself, but I used to. So I don't think that's a part of being blind or anything. It's just,
But that is one of those things. Since you've never, you say you were blind since you were born, so you really have no concept of what a face looks like.
You're not 100% though, are you? As far as I remember.
Correct.
Yeah. So you're.
You can kind of see something.
It's more lights.
Right, but yeah, so
blurs and lights.
The experience doesn't change in a dream. But I imagine if I'd had it to lose, it might be different.
Right, okay.
I often wonder if you actually have sort of like your own internal visualization going on.
Well, it is kind of one of those things. I mean, I mean, there was this question on QI, and the idea is that the answer is no, which is, say you take a baby who's been blind its entire life, and it can determine a square and a sphere by touching it, and then it's suddenly been able to see. Would it still be able to determine the cube and sphere? Excuse me. Would it? And if it was suddenly able to see, would it be able to determine the cube and the sphere, having touched it all its life? Would it now only be able to decipher which is which just by looking at them? And the answer is no, because sight and touch are two completely different senses.
There is a certain amount of neuroplasticity that happens between the senses, though. Like, if you are down a sense, then often the brain will sort of convert things that would be used for that.
Sorry, guys. Literally got to go right now.
So. No worries, mate.
Okay.
Take it easy.
Thank you for your genuine question.
And you know what? And you know what? I'm actually getting really, really tired now. I know we've only had an hour, and I'm probably I feel like I'm shortchanging you, and I'm sorry.
I agree.
I am shortchanging everybody.
I feel shortchanged.
I know,
right now.
I know. But I am absolutely shattered. I'm actually struggling to stay awake at this point. My eyes keep on closing on me.
Such a weakling.
I know. I'm such a baby. I was going to do this.
Did we talk about Virginia?
I was going to do this at 8, but I ended up having a nap, and I'm still fucking tired. God damn it.
Robin, just before you do the closing, Sophie from Holland says, why does he start at 11 o'clock? It's too late for me.
Normally I would have gone a little earlier. Sorry about that, Sophie.
Did we talk about Virginia at all?
1 second. Am I working on Saturday? I'll be working Sunday next week. Okay. So yeah, I'll do a nice early start on Saturday next week, and we'll chin wag away, and we'll get that. And yes, Kraut, I am getting old. It's not my fault. I'm just tired.
We're all getting older, bud.
But
I'm glad Kraut said that. I was tempted.
Well, you're already old, so you don't get to gloat.
I can gloat as much as
Anyway,
I like.
yeah, I'm gonna drop. Much love, everybody. Thanks for coming by. But don't worry, I'll make up for it next week. Promise. Okay. Thank you very much.
He's lying.
Don't believe his lies. Take it easy, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye. I think Virginia is going to be very bad.